You are listening to the Cup of Mets podcast, your one-stop shop for all things New York Mets baseball. Remember to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We are at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And last but not least, download the SeatGeek app and use code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. Now, your hosts, Ian Bosniak and Matthew DeSantis. The 2026 Major League Baseball trade deadline has come and gone. And Matt, I don't know about you, but I think I tripled the amount of screen time that I normally have on my phone. Today was wild.
Oh my God. I work all day, just refresh. Yeah, let's just say I didn't get a lot of work done today.
Zero.
Yeah, the ball club was busy.
Yeah, just as we predicted, right? We knew that they were going to sell. We knew that there were a bunch of pieces, whether those that are on expiring contracts or maybe have one more year of control left. And they definitely didn't disappoint when it came to movement, right? It was action-packed. I felt like every time I was refreshing, there was something, whether it be an actual deal or a rumor. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I got like no work done today. My eyes were glued to the phone and I'm staring at my computer as well, just trying to do what I have to do. And I'm like, you know what? Obviously, we have the podcast here to, talk about baseball. But I'm like, shit, man, I am in the wrong industry. This is this is what I love. I love talking. I love, chirping on X and this and that. But I'm thinking back, right? I mean, I've been a fan since the early 2000s. I can't think of a sell-off like this before.
Yeah, this one today was pretty crazy, honestly. There was a lot of trades.
Yeah. Like I think
Usually there is a lot, but I'm curious what the final number was of trades today.
oh
I'm
dude,
sure Jeff Passan's gonna say that later.
yeah. I also saw somebody write, how many top 100 prospects were dealt, and I think it was like 3 times the amount from last year.
Really?
Yeah, so definitely a ton of movement. We're gonna cater this episode a little bit differently. Obviously, the ones that came closer to the 6 p.m. deadline were more significant, not only in what the Mets acquired, but what they also gave up. But we're gonna start with the first deal. And obviously the first deal not being David Peterson, right? We already know they got Cole Mathis, but the first deal that occurred, when was it? 3 nights ago? Friday?
Oh,
Yeah, I believe it was Friday, maybe Thursday night. I don't know. I'm getting all my days mixed up. But AJ Minter, who, was vocal, said that he feels like he let the team down by being injured and hopefully he could put on to, provide a good prospect or two in return. He was traded to the Minnesota Twins. And it's funny that it's the Twins because all I was thinking about all day today was if somebody would have told us last summer that the 2026 Mets at the trade deadline would act in the same exact manner as the 2025 Twins did at the deadline, I would have laughed in your face. Like that's exactly how it operated.
yeah, I know. I
It's
know.
crazy.
Trust me,
It's
nobody really had these expectations, but at the end of the day, when your team is terrible and you're like 16, 17 games under 500 and stuff, like you have to do it.
try 19.
19,
We're
whatever.
gonna we're gunning for that first overall pick.
Oh, we need that.
100%. But with that, yeah, Minter got sent to the Minnesota Twins. I believe he's already made 2 appearances for them. I'm going to be honest. I do kind of like this move, right? For a guy in Minter coming off lat surgery, I think only ended up making across his 1.5 years in Queens. I think he only made 30 some odd appearances. He was throwing the ball well, but he was really struggling, I think, towards the last few weeks with an ERA like over 6 or something along those lines. The Mets were able to acquire a top 30 prospect per MLB pipeline. And again, we're going to try to not just talk based off of rankings, right? The actual prospects themselves, because, you look back to 2013, 2014, Jacob deGrom, I think, was a 20th overall prospect. And look what he turned into, right? But we start things off by the Mets acquiring former Mets great Benny Agbayani's son, Bruin Agbayani, a second baseman, shortstop, swings from the left side of the dish. He's only 19 years old. He will report to St. Lucie. He's coming off a shoulder surgery, but he's rehabbing. He will be back, this season. I got to be honest. I think this kind of set the tone for some of the future moves that we saw come to fruition, whether it be, yesterday or today, because it's
Yeah.
very apparent that David Stearns has a type, and it is athletic, agile, versatile, and all the above. And Bruin Agbagnani fits that mold.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they also acquired Billy Amick, who I also think is a good player. I mean, he's been doing pretty well since getting brought up to Binghamton.
Yeah, yeah, he already hit a home run, right? And it was a piss
Yeah.
missile. I mean, listen, to me, I think for a rental reliever being Minter, having been injured, I think it was a good move, and this is one of the moves I will get critical about a few, and I know you will as well. But
Yeah.
I do like this move, and I did think it set a good tone. Just speaking about Agbagnani for a second, he was a sixth round pick in the 2025 draft. Scouting grades, he's a 50 hit tool, power 45, run 55, arm 45, field 45, overall 40. But in he only played 10 games at single A for the Twins this season before going down with the injury. But again, a lot of people like his above average speed on the base paths. He's a good defensive player, and he also has really, really good bat speed. Routinely finds the barrel. Listen, he may not be a power hitter. He may tap out at like 8 to 12 home runs at the upper levels. But again, if you're hitting close to 300, I think that's a good find, right? And then on the flip, you brought up Billy Amick. He's a first baseman, third baseman. He was not ranked within the Twins top 30, but I believe he won a title with the University of Tennessee.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And he's kind of like the complete opposite. He kind of is a power first type of guy. I believe he has over 20 home runs this season, right?
Yeah,
Um,
24.
yeah, 24 home runs. First baseman, third baseman, most likely going to profile more as a first baseman. A lot of swing and miss in his game. But again, a lot of people talk about the jump from high A to double A is where you really start to see if a player is going to maturate. And I think that Billy Amick is somebody that he's showing that he has the power tool, obviously, even in Binghamton now. But to me, when I'm looking at a guy like Amick, I don't know about you, like David Stearns just finished talking in his post trade deadline presser. And I'll be honest, like for the first time, I didn't want to like bash his face in, not just because of, the returns that we got, because I wasn't a fan of all of them, but,
Yeah.
he did explain, he did say 2027, he is still hoping, not even hoping, he wants to be competitive next year. He wants to win. And I think that by making all these moves, I think a guy like Amick could be on the table to be traded this offseason, assuming there is one, right? And I think a lot of the other moves as well have pieces in there that some players could be dealt for major league talent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought, like you said, I thought it did. It set the bar. I thought that we were realistically only gonna get more. And I guess that, wasn't the case on some of the deals.
Yeah, yeah. Because then you flip to a Saturday, right? And the Mets traded Freddie Peralta to the Tampa Bay Rays. And we had the Rays acquiring Peralta in our predictions. Freddie Peralta went to the Tampa Bay Rays. The good thing about that is we know how deep their farm system is.
Yeah.
And I thought that the Mets got good pieces, right? They were able
Absolutely.
to, yeah, I don't have the exact numbers. I want to say that they acquired outfielder Aiden Smith, who's just a really toolsy player. This is his second time getting traded. So he was drafted by the Mariners, sent to Tampa Bay for Randy Rosarena, and then now shipped to the Mets, obviously, in exchange for Freddie Peralta. Really toolsy, only 22. He'll be in Brooklyn, but he's somebody that hasn't put it all together. He kind of reminds me of like a Vance Honeycutt with the Orioles, just somebody who has big power, can run, can play a great center field, but hasn't put the hit tool together and also struggles to get on base at a high clip. So the Mets have a flyer there, but again, he was the highest ranked player. After that, however, I think the other two pieces are most intriguing to me. I don't know if
Yeah,
you feel.
I feel like the kid you're gonna say next, Petrie.
Well, yeah, Emilian Petrie, who's a Montreal native. He's 23 years old. He will be 24 on October 4th. So we're looking at 2027 being his age 24 season. So he is a
Yeah,
little bit older, but he went to the University of Kentucky and he's raking right now in double A. And a lot of people expect him to be called up to Syracuse by the end of the season, which, gives the Mets a good head start going into next year. Again, hopefully there is a season, and that'll be the last time I'm saying that. Um, but incredible and very advanced bat to ball skills. Um, I find the greatest statistic that I see here 2026, his on base percentage is 438. He's hitting 308, but in 302 at bats, he has walked 70 times and he has only struck out 40 times.
good. I love that. Yeah, no, I read good stuff on him, and that it was people complain about that deal there, but they weren't getting a top 100 prospect for Peralta, and it's better to get three dart throws and Gary Gill Hill, who's an 80 grade name.
Yeah, 80 great name indeed, man. What a
80.
name.
Yeah, digging into him was fun too. He's got some good stuff.
He's from New
Five
Rochelle.
pitch arsenal.
Yeah, he's from New Rochelle as well. And
Oh,
David Stearns, and I don't think Gil Hill is going to be somebody that's dealt. I really do believe that he might be a part of the equation at some point next season. Obviously dependent on, I see I'm doing it again. Obviously dependent on if there is a season, but Gil Hill has rose through the race system, being now just 21 years old. He was drafted at 17 in the sixth round, but he's 6'2", 160. He has tapped out at about 97 miles per hour, but really sits around 93 to 95. Throws a massive, big sweeping slider, a changeup, and a cutter in the high 80s. He's also got one more pitch. I know that you mentioned five pitch arsenal. He doesn't strike out a ton of batters and pitches to more contact. He's got a 298
mhm.
average against, but again, 21 years old in double A already. And the greatest thing about this is in 108 and a third of an innings this year, he has only walked 23 batters.
Very good. Very good. No, dude, trust me. You know me, I'm a prospect guy. Um, I love just the influx of talent that just came through our door. Do I think on some of these deals, and we'll get to that, do I think they could have done a little better on some? Sure, but I guess we don't sit in those on those phone calls and stuff. Um,
Yep.
but no, you're right. You're right. Gary Gill Hill, 80 grade name, and hopefully he does big stuff for us.
Yeah, yeah. So listen, I mean, again, if it was our choice, and I think we were talking about this yesterday, we like Petre, we like Gil Hill, just maybe somebody else that's not such a lottery ticket like Aiden Smith is. Obviously, he has the upside, but somebody that
Mhm.
has been in pro ball since 2024 and hasn't really put much together kind of worries me. But again, you never know. Aiden Smith could be another guy that's shipped out. Before we move any further, we did talk about doing this, and I failed to do so after talking about the AJ Minter trade. So just going back to Minter, that deal in and of itself, what grade would you give the Mets?
I'd give them a solid B plus. I mean, I'm not really too sure what you're gonna get for AJ Minter, thrown I think 23 innings for the Mets, and he's on the older side, and he gets injured. So you got a bat that can hit over 20 home runs a season in Billy Amick, and you have Bruin, who's like you said, a good defender, and he's young, so he'll be coming up in our system. I give that one a B plus.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking like B, B plus. Again, it's so hard to tell But again, Amick is somebody that has power. Agbayani has the tools. We know that David Stearns is in love with tools. But again, when it comes to a guy like Minter, you just said all those things about AJ, and then also, he'll be a free agent after the year. So I think they did what they could do. I'll say B, B plus as well. When it comes to the Freddie Peralta return, after seeing other trades that occurred today, what grade do you give them there?
You hit the nail on the head. I do feel like that I wish they got a bigger headliner than Aiden Smith. I wish that they got somebody a little better. Freddie Peralta, really though, he didn't do us any favors with his play.
No.
I'll say a C.
Yeah, yeah. Because, dude, I mean, he had a
But
4.99 ERA, but he's going to go to Tampa Bay and chop it up.
yeah, I mean, it's really hard to give these grades because these are 19, 20, 21-year olds. You don't know what's going to happen that 3, 4 years down the line, maybe even in 3 weeks. You don't know how these guys will adjust to the system.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna give them a B minus. I really like Petre. I really like Gil Hill. Again, what you just said, what I kind of said before. I just wish that there was a different headliner, maybe like a Slater DeBron or something like that.
True.
Um, Even a guy like Michael Forett, right, who's
Yeah.
a pitcher, he got sent back to Houston or back to
Yeah.
Baltimore. I don't know where he went. There were so many deals today. I think he went
So
back to Baltimore. I don't know. I don't know.
I
But
mean, hopefully somebody has a nice thread or article so I can read that.
I know, I know. But yeah, no, I thought given that Peralta has been getting blown up in all of his starts, 4.99 ERA, 4.60, 4.70 something FIP, barely making it past 5 innings, high pitch count galore. I think that they did as well as they could have. So I'll give them a B minus. The next trade though, we woke up to this morning. Curious to get your take. I have been a proponent of keeping Huascar Barazaban. I know that he's 36 years old. Next year he'll be 37. Obviously, that comes after 36. He's got 3 more years, 2 more years of team control. He's reliable. He can pitch in New York. The Mets traded him to the Chicago White Sox in exchange for right-handed pitcher Gabe Davis, who now sits at number 20 in the Mets farm system. He's a 6'9" right-hander that can touch 100 miles per hour. He's got a grade 60 fastball, 55 slider, 45 changeup. His control is around a 40, so he is a little bit wild overall. I like getting Gabe Davis. I mean, I think he was the 18th overall prospect in a deep White Sox system, but I felt like after that, again, similar to before, there needed to be something better, especially after some of the moves that we saw transpire today. Um, and then the Mets went ahead and they acquired Zach Franklin, a right-hander who's in AAA. He's Rule 5 eligible after the year. He's going to be in Syracuse. I guarantee you he's going to get the call this season, and we'll see him in Queens to pick up some innings this year
Yeah.
in AAA. He's got a 113 FIP, 437 ERA, 60 strikeouts, and 45 and a third of an inning. Again, he's got really good stuff. Hard thrower, but again, I don't want to go back to the rankings, but like unranked, and then you saw so many players get dealt today, even from the White Sox system that were, you know, just more promising looking players. And I just felt like in that moment for a controllable reliever and somebody who has been really solid for the last 2 years, I felt like that return was a little light.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, like the Mets overall did well for Oscar Brazaban, considering the guy that they sent to the Marlins, what, 2, 3 years ago, is like still stuck in A ball and he's like 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a good player, good Met. We could have gotten more though. Uh, I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
sure. I'm sure if they waited until around 3 p.m.,
yeah,
somebody would have called on and offered more than that.
100%. 100%. It was almost like they had like a specific time allotment that they wanted to trade everybody,
Either
and
either that or they were like they I feel like they did business very specific this year.
yeah, business very specific, and also they just had so many players to trade that maybe, they just wanted to. We heard them say it weeks ago they want to get ahead of, August 3rd, the August 3rd trade deadline. They didn't really get ahead of it. They traded six, five, six players today, right? And only traded two prior to the deadline. I don't know, man. Again, I really like the Gabe Davis, you know, addition. He was a fifth round draft pick last year. Again, I said he 6'9", throws hard. He's only 22 and he's in double A as well. The one caveat with him is that not only is the control iffy, but he's a starter right now. He's made 18 starts, but a lot of people see him transitioning to the bullpen, right? So if you're getting a hard thrower, someone in the bullpen that is not going to make his debut until 2028, we would still have Oscar Brosbon. Again, he would be older, so we don't know what he would be, but we need arms next year if we're going to
I
be
mean, I think
competitive.
I think the most important part about freeing is about doing this is you're opening up like spots to guys like a Nate Lavender to see what they have, like Ryan Lambert, Dylan Ross, like because you can't just leave those guys at AAA forever.
Yeah, no, I
And I
agree.
think the Mets have what five or six bullpen spots to fill, and we're gonna start to see. I mean, Jeffrey Yon is coming up, Mr. Electric.
Oh boy, dude, if he starts doing his acrobats on the mound like we've brought up before, doing 19 games under 500, playing like crap. Oh,
Jeff, he better be electric like that.
dude, I don't want to see it. It's almost like when the Mets are, in the trash and they're wearing the hard hat, or they're wearing the Spider-Man face. It's like, he'll
Yeah,
be perfect. He'll be perfect coming in the seventh inning when the Queens crew is doing their dance party, right? And the lights are flashing, right?
yeah,
But whatever, yeah. And I think that, for instance, in this trade with Zach Franklin, I think that that's somebody who you might see get an opportunity, and that's why I brought that up before. Um, so again, I mean, to me, again, I like Gabe Davis. I like that addition to the system. Zach Franklin, I guess I like that he's more major league ready. If that counts for anything, we could revisit this conversation in 2 months, right? If he makes his debut and he's really good, or we can revisit it next year if he gets the call, and we could give them something different. But I'm going to give them a D plus on this trade. I think that they could have done better. Again, I like Gabe Davis. I just think that they could have gotten more. And as you said before, I think if they would have waited a little bit longer, they would have gotten a better return.
yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll go D plus as well. I'll go D plus. Like I don't know if I just came into this with high expectations or if this year was really such a buyer's market. But I did think that they were going to get more from Brazaban, considering he has a three lower than a three ERA. He's reliable. He's cheap. So,
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
uh, I thought we were going to get more, and
Yeah, yeah, and I
at
think
this point, trade deadline's over. We just gotta hope that the Mets get these guys into their system. Hopefully, see something in these guys that they can tweak,
yeah.
and
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, and I think that's why I think there was a big difference. Even when the Mets traded Luke Weaver, and we'll touch upon that in a few. Even a Brooks Raley, who the Mets also traded, we'll talk about that in a few seconds. But I think that there was a big difference. I think that last year or the year before, you're trading a guy with 3 years of team control. You're getting a hefty a hefty bag in return. And I just felt like this was definitely a little weak and not how I wanted to start my trade deadline morning. I don't know about you. I was just like, you got to be kidding me.
yeah, no, I know.
Because then the White Sox made a couple moves and then they dealt some other, higher, more highly thought of players. And you're like, oh, well, mm, we got Zach Franklin. So,
Yeah,
that's that. And I really hope that Zach Franklin makes me bite my words and he comes up and he dominates. But for right now, D plus. I'm going to go ahead and give a grade on this next trade right now. F, straight F. Brooks Raley sent to the Phillies,
Agreed.
straight F.
F.
This has nothing to do with it being to the Phillies. I don't care where they traded them. I did not care whatsoever. But for Brooks Raley with an ERA under 2, who has been nothing but superb, goes down in Mets franchise history with the second best ERA in franchise history with the minimum of 100 games pitched.
Yeah.
The Mets shipped out Raley for Luke Gabrish, who was an unranked prospect, currently has made 17 starts this year, 18 games total. He's in high A and is 23 years old. Okay, he was a 15th round pick in 2024. He's got a 5.14 ERA. Again, 89 strikeouts and 68 and a third of an inning. Great. But again, this is kind of similar to Gabe Davis. I think Gabe Davis has a higher upside, but just how we were talking about before, when it appears that David Stearns has a type, he also has a type on the pitching side of things. And it is guys that throw hard, guys that may not have their command in check, and players that they could, as you said before, tweak in their system. And again, the Phillies made another move or two today, and I just felt like they could have done more. So they bring in Luke Gabrish, and then at the same time, they go ahead and I don't know what he was ranked. I think he was 27th. I may be wrong, 26th, 27th overall prospect for the Phillies. And the Phillies have a bad farm system, a bad farm system. They go ahead and get outfielder type Bruin Agbignani 2.0 in John Spikerman, another good name,
Yeah.
right? He was 2024 third round draft pick. When it comes to his scouting grades, 45 hit tool, 30 power. So he has 0 power, run 70, arm 60, fielding 60. Overall, he's a 40. He was a University of Oklahoma product. That's why, again, he's 23, but he's at high A ball. He'll report to the Cyclones. He's a switch hitter. There's never been a question about, whether he can play plus defense in the outfield or his speed. But a lot of people, and, even just reading some scouting reports, he's more of a contact guy. He can get on base. He uses his speed, but he profiles more as a backup outfielder.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he's got a 423 on base percentage this season in 32 games. Missed some time earlier on this year. He's only hitting 252. He's got 18 stolen bases, has only struck out one more time than walked. So he doesn't strike out a ton. But again, no home runs. They just could have done better. F.
Could have done better, first of all. And I mean, yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about that one. F, they could have done better. Inexcusable, especially to a divisional rival.
Yeah, yeah. I think that trade just pissed me off the most. And if I have
And
power rankings,
the
this
next
one,
the
this
next one on our list was more like, where the hell did this one come from?
Yeah, yeah. Well, this was a minor trade, and it's funny because several weeks ago we heard that the Dodgers were looking for another catcher. But somebody that the Mets brought in over the offseason, a former Dodger, Ben Rotbert, who's been in AAA, he was dealt back to the Dodgers in exchange for pitcher Chase McDermott, who was a big time prospect several years ago. He immediately goes on to the Mets 40 man, and I do expect him to take on a role in the bullpen right away. He's pitched in 2 games this year for the Dodgers, 7.71 ERA. We're not really going to look at his ERA. He's only pitched in 7 big league games, spent his first 2 years with Baltimore. Um, I mean, I'm not even going to grade this one because it just is what it is. It's not like Robert was going to have an opportunity, especially earlier on in the season
Yeah.
When Alvy got hurt. Hayden Sanger was called up, so it's not like Robert was going to have an opportunity. But yeah, Chase McDermott, I expect him to be activated tomorrow. I really do.
Yeah, they should. As many of these guys that are at least in AAA and like have the experience might as well.
Yeah. I mean, listen,
Them, Lavender, Dylan Ross, Lambert, and you let them play the rest of these games and see how it goes.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, he's 27, 6'3", 190, throws hard. Um, obviously he's no longer a prospect and he's more major league ready. And it's so funny because, you look at all the trades that the Mets made today, and you could argue that the one AAA swap that the Mets and Dodgers made, he's the most major league ready,
Fucking wild.
So there's that. I'm curious to get your take on this next move here.
Okay.
Okay. So the Mets went ahead and they did indeed trade Luke Weaver, as I mentioned before. There were several teams that were in on him, and the Mets ended up doing something that I think that we're all still kind of appalled with. Granted, the kid has had a tremendous season, but the Mets dealt Luke Weaver to the Pittsburgh Pirates in exchange for shortstop Sammy Stafora. That's it.
Yeah.
It was a 1-for-1 for
And
the.
and cash involved and
Yep. So the Mets will pay $2 million this year. I believe he's owed $3 million for the rest of the year. So the Mets take on 2/3 of his remaining money for 2026, and then in 2027 he's owed $12.25 million or $12.75 million, and the Mets are paying 6.25 next year.
yeah, that's honestly terrible. That was the best reliever on the market.
Yeah, I think that's the issue
Sammy, and
here.
that's nothing to Sammy Stafura. Like I've heard a lot about him. People are raving about this kid. How did we pay that contract down that much and not leave with like multiple prospects?
I
Is what would like to know.
I
We
know.
paid a hefty price just for we paid I think three prospects to each team for Ryan Helsley,
Hmm.
Gregory Soto, and Tyler Rogers. Yeah.
I know. I
And this
know.
is what we got back.
I know. I think about it. Luke Weaver has allowed one run since April. One run. And he's under team control for next year. Obviously, next year we don't know, but like, come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. Like, if you're not going to give up a top 100 prospect or a prospect within your top five, that's fine if you want to start with Sammy Stafora. But if we're talking about quantity over quality, like, give us another piece or two. Like, you have him under control for next year. And excuse me if I'm wrong here, but 12, 12 million bucks in change for a setup man and somebody who can also close is nothing in today's market.
No, it's not. And the fact when I read that they had to pay that down too made me even more sick. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm like, are you serious? Like
I know.
they get one prospect. I mean, granted, he's a good prospect from a good system, having a good year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I
it
maybe I
just,
would have honestly, I wouldn't have him go to the Cyclones. I'd have him go to Binghamton. But I
yeah.
don't run things around there.
No, I agree, and I think he will be in Binghamton by season's end. Again, just the rundown of Stafora, diehard Mets fan, by the way.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if you saw this, but one of his friends, or maybe it may not have been one of his friends. I was driving
No.
and I saw it, but did you see
It was
that
a ra-
somebody?
yeah,
Some,
I saw it. It was a
yes,
random guy.
yeah, it was a random guy, and somebody tagged him and said, "Welcome to the Mets," and he had no idea, and he's like, "Let's fucking go." Diehard Mets fan. He even follows some Mets accounts, which is so funny. He followed them before.
Yeah.
That's cool to see. 2023 second round draft pick by the Reds. The thing about him is that they have always evaluators, scouts. They have always said that he has more power in his game.
Hmm.
And this, again, similar to Aiden Smith, this was the second time getting dealt. He was initially traded from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh in exchange for Key Brian Hayes. And now he comes to the Mets for Luke Weaver, and he's coming at a crucial point. And I think that maybe due to the July that he had and the way that he's been playing this season, I think that maybe the Pirates held him to a much higher standard than, the average casual fan like you or I really kind of see. But
Yeah.
he hit 14 home runs in the month of July. I mean,
Yeah.
that's incredible. On the season, he's already a 2020 player, 20 home runs, 54 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, getting on base at a 367 clip, slugging 593. He's very fast. Obviously, he's got 20 stolen bases, but in his first two full big league seasons in 24 and 25, he stole 31 and 32 bases, respectively. I mean, he's somebody that and even some of the videos that I've seen of him swinging, it looks like even the adjustments that he's made, despite
Mm.
there being like some swing and miss issues, he keeps his hands in really nicely
Yeah.
on the baseball. And I think that he's a very, very solid player. And there's no issues with any with adding Sammy Stafora to the organization. It comes down to A, did we get enough? And B, how the hell are we paying essentially half of Luke Weaver's salary in 2027?
Exactly. It's more or less like, why the hell do we have to pay that
Yeah.
for one prospect?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely mind-boggling. I think for me, I think the return, like if we were talking about Sammy Stafora, just him alone, I'll give him a B plus. But the trade in and of itself, I gotta give a C or a C minus just based off the way that Luke Weaver has been pitching and the return. Like
I'll just
I don't.
give it a C. Like, I
Yeah,
like I like that kid, but they could have gotten more, and I don't know why the hell they didn't pay down anything else, but they paid down Luke Weaver.
yeah, yeah. And I think that
Sure, I would if I were them, they were and say it was like Murph Gray, I would have gotten it, like if they were paying off his entire contract.
yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I think that that's what we were talking about. And it's funny too, because once we saw that Sammy Stafora, we were both like, that can't be the headliner. But then just thinking back to some of the trades, it seemed like it was quantity over quality. Not saying nothing against Stafora. For all we know, he might listen to this podcast since he's a diehard Mets fan. I don't know. But, and he might end up following us. Like, who knows? But to me, I'm just saying to myself, like, there's no way it can be a 1-for-1 and ends up being a 1-for-1. And if you're thinking 1-for-1, exactly what you just said, best reliever on the market, how is it not Murph Gray?
Yeah. Trust
Nothing
me.
against Stafora. Um, but yeah, Stafora in and of himself, B. But, the return in and of itself and the trade in and of itself, I have to give a C, C minus. Um, the last trade, though, of the day, kudos, David Stearns.
Was the only A.
Yeah, yeah, it's an A. It's an A.
It's an A. They needed to come out of this deadline with a freaking top 100 prospect. And
Yeah,
if they didn't, the whole deadline would have been an F. And
I
and we're
know, I know.
happy that Jefferson Rojas probably profiles as a third baseman.
Thank God.
So I mean that looks pretty good for the organization. We needed somebody else at the top of that, because guys like Ryan Clifford are going to be falling and then when the rankings update.
Yeah, yeah. And Jefferson Rojas, the Mets acquired from the Cubs. It was a 2-for-1. They did send over Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor. I think those are, along with Brooks Raley, I think those are the three players that we can say like thank you for what you did with the orange and blue.
Mhm.
Um, Tyrone Taylor boosted his stock immensely in the month of July. He's turned into Babe Ruth out there. He's up to 10 home runs somehow, but good for Tyrone. I hope he goes and plays well for the Cubs and Clay Holmes. I'm happy that we send him to a contender. Obviously, an extension didn't work out, but I think we brought it up, last time we spoke or the time before that. It's like, you know what? If we want an extension, you can always re-sign him in the offseason, right? Um,
100%.
because he's opting out. So the Mets trade Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor to the Cubs in exchange for who was their second overall prospect in Jefferson Rojas, a really good farm system. He's 21 years old out of the Dominican Republic, signed in January of 2022, can play shortstop, has also spent a little bit of time at second base, but profiles more so as a third baseman. He's only 21 years old and in double A. That makes me excited. He has performed essentially wherever he's gone. He's starting to tap into his power. He's got 15 home runs this year in 91 games. He essentially once he went to double A, the bat to ball skills didn't diminish, but he stopped hitting the ball kind of with authority. He stopped lifting
Yeah.
pitches. So that kind of made some people scratch their heads a little bit and say, wait, is he going to tap into his power? But the power hasn't been a problem this season. 270 for double A Knoxville, 339 on base percentage, slugging 461. He's got 19 doubles, a triple, 15 home runs, 57 RBIs, walked 35 times, only struck out 64 times in 345 at bats, and 17 stolen bases. So the kid can also move on the base paths,
Yeah.
and he's been able to defend pretty well. He's an average defender, don't get me wrong, but he's got quick hands and a really solid arm that's capable of making throws from third to first. So I don't know, given that he is in double A already, maybe
Mhm.
allow him to see triple A pitching by the end of the season or early next year. And then who knows, he could get the call pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm happy. That's my favorite trade. I think that's the best Mets trade of the day.
Yeah, yeah. I think I can agree with that. I think that as I said before, I did think that the return that we got for Freddie Peralta was appropriate, despite maybe wanting a different headliner. I thought the AJ Minter trade was good,
Yeah,
um, but I love getting forget the rankings and the top 100 nonsense and this and that. Despite him ranking in the top 100, not only for MLB Pipeline but also Baseball America and Baseball Prospectus, amazing. Um, I just think that that was the best overall trade because, as you said before, the Mets had to come away with somebody that can headline and kind of leap over Jonah Tong in their rankings. And Jefferson Rojas, his ceiling is extremely high, and he's so young, and he's already in Double A. So he's got an expected ETA of 2027. So that's exciting. And yeah, I agree. I think that that was the best trade outside of Jefferson Rojas, though. Which prospect are you most intrigued by?
I'll give you two.
Okay.
Petrie,
Yep.
I feel like that was a good profile to bring into the organization to give Mitch Voigt, who looks incredible, by the way, scorching hot at double A.
Oh my gosh.
Might be a top three He'll be a top 100 prospect when the new update comes out.
I agree.
100%. Same with Santucci.
Yep. I
Um,
agree.
so I'm gonna go with Petrie. I'm gonna go with both the guys we got from the Twins and Billy Amick. I think that Billy Amick, is he was a SEC college guy, we might see him in September. You never know. I
Yeah.
think he has good power. Power is what this team lost in Pete Alonso, and we really don't have that much power on our team. So it'll be interesting to see those guys rise through the system.
And then you said both guys from the Twins. You like Bruin Agbayani as well?
Yep, I do. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I think for me, I agree with you. I like those players. I think that Petrie, I think that he might end up pushing Marcus Simeon out at some point next year.
Yeah.
He's very close, and the fact that he'll be in AAA probably by season's end is really nice to see. He almost reminds me of a more contact, and I've seen him hit the ball a little bit on video. He kind of reminds me of a more contact oriented Travis Bazzana. So that kind of excites me. But yeah, no, I Petrie for me. And then again, I know that I gave this trade I don't know, I think I said a D plus, but I'm curious to see what Gabe Davis turns into. If the Mets can somehow turn him into, well, he's already a starter, but can kind of change his profile away from being that big, hard throwing reliever eventually down the road in his career to you know, allow him to remain a starter. 6'9". He's got
Yeah.
electric stuff, already in double A, right? He's young, he's 22. So I think that those are my guys, and then obviously Sammy Stafora as well. I feel bad about the way that about the way that we spoke about that trade, and then also the way that we were talking about it before we even hopped on here earlier on today. And again, it has nothing to do with him, but I mean, if he can continue slugging the way that he has, and if he's figured it out, I mean, again, the hit tool, there's swing and miss, but he's almost like a five tool player in a way, right? Like he plays great defense. He can run, he can hit for power. It just comes down to, again, can he limit the swing and miss? But I really, again, Stafora, Gabe Davis, Petrie, I love them. I think that they're good players and players that we can look at and say, all right, this system has a lot of depth. It just comes down to, again, did the Mets get enough for certain trades? And I think that that's where we kind of talk a little bit more down on the trade deadline itself. With that being said, like, I'm not even going to ask the question, which trade did you
Yeah,
decide? Did we
it's
despise the
Brooks
most? It
Raley.
was the Brooks Raley. We wish him nothing but the best, but that trade really, really bad. So I guess overall, even going back to the David Peterson trade this summer, going into the trade deadline, what would you give David Stearns a grade wise overall? What would you give him? And
I'd say C.
say,
C. I'd give him a C. I mean, that Jefferson Rojas acquisition saved his ass.
oh my
If
gosh,
not, it would have been D minus.
dude, no, 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 not even that, bro. If he did not get Jefferson Rojas,
Like, imagine we sent both of them there and it was for their like ninth and 23rd prospects.
you know what, dude?
I
You
would
know
have
what, dude?
flipped out.
I know. You know what, dude? We would have came on to this episode balls ablazing. Fuck David Stearns, fire David Stearns, which
Yeah.
I think we're still in agreement. Fire David Stearns. Well,
Yeah.
like I just don't like him. But even a trade like, and I think that as the day went on, though, we kind of started realizing that the Mets were going to get value from Holmes because when, I don't know about you, but when the Cardinals traded Dustin May to the Brewers and the Cardinals were able to get Alexander Frias, the
Yeah.
18-year-old in single A that's hitting 342. And that's somebody that I was like, all right, when it comes to the Brewers, I don't even really care if they're within the top 100 because there's a
Yeah.
guy like Andrew Fisher, there's Frias. Like, if we can get one of those guys, that's a nice headliner. They got Frias and Josiah Ragsdale, and I'm saying to myself, okay, we're going to get a good return for Clay Holmes, but again, this is David Stearns operating. So is it going to suck, right? And unfortunately, that's the reality of where we're at. But overall, you hit the nail on the head. Getting Jefferson Rojas saved David Stearns' ass. So with all that being said, Matt, I have to ask. We gave grades on the trades. Obviously, the Mets traded 8 players. We gave grades on the overall trade deadline. Is there a player or two that you wish that the Mets would have moved?
Would have moved.
Yeah,
Um, I do think that come winter, they will look into trading Lindor. I just have that weird feeling.
I hope
But
not.
is there any players that I
Like today.
probably would have capitalized and traded a catcher? Honestly,
Yeah,
I think I would have. I would have. We don't sit in on these, so you don't know what was offered. But I mean, Liam Hicks got a pretty nice deal
oh
from the
man.
amount of prospects from the Rays.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't want to be like somebody that almost sounded like a song. I don't want to be somebody that is so gung ho on the prospects because again, we're trying to win soon. But to me, as the day went on, and the Yankees in particular, and we've spoken about this, like I don't want to trade a guy like Francisco Alvarez and then have him go to the Bronx and just be Johnny Bench or Mike Piazza or Pudge 2.0, right? But at the same time, when you see that return that, as you just mentioned, Liam Hicks, like that they got for from Tampa Bay, and as the day crept on, and the Yankees only ended up with Elliot Ramos, uh, and I think they picked up one other player. Oh, Luis Garcia Jr. yesterday. As the day crept on, they're in such need of a catcher. And then you see what the Orioles got for Adley Rushman. And
Insane.
yeah, insane. And then obviously Francisco Alvarez doesn't have the Adley Rushman name, but if you compare their numbers this year, Alvarez is superior to them, and he's younger, and he's under team control for longer. So in my head, I'm saying there's an opportunity right now where the Mets could probably go ahead to, discuss with the Yankees a potential trade that would send two major league ready arms in Elmer Rodriguez, who could probably plug right into the rotation. He's a top 100 prospect, and they probably also could have got Carlos Larange, the hard throwing right hander that's in AAA, and probably another piece or two. And in my head, I was saying to myself, like, I don't want him to go to the Yankees, but shit, we could have.
Would have been nice to fill out the back end of the rotation.
Yeah, with kids that, could add to the Thornton and the Scott and the McLean
Yeah.
right here and right now, right? But again, yeah, I can.
The Mets focus for the rest of the year needs to be on youth, needs to be on I really hope I'm sure tomorrow we're gonna see a laundry list of moves. I hope Morabito gets some time in the outfield. You gotta see what you have in him, especially in the lineup. I'd
Mhm.
even DH him sometimes to get him some at bats.
Yeah,
And like I said earlier in the episode, you got to see what these relief pitchers you have, like Dylan Ross, Lambert, Jonathan Pintaro, like those guys are going to be coming up.
yeah. I want to see Pintaro finally stay because
Yeah.
he's like the up and down machine.
Yeah, he's gonna stay, I'm sure, and then you're gonna see probably one, if not both, of the major league ready guys that we got at the
Zach
deadline
Franklin
today.
and McDonald.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I just have to say this too. We're talking about a catcher. Like in my head, when I saw that Red Sox Oriole trade, I was like, okay, again, I know that Francisco Alvarez does not have the Adley Rushman name, but does this mean that we could have traded Francisco Alvarez and gotten Anthony Janssen and Kyson Witherspoon? Like, is that what that like? Obviously,
probably
everyone's
not, dude. I don't obviously we're our guy, he's not valued like that,
yeah,
or
but
I'm sure
being
he would have went.
being I think we would have gotten one of the big guys, hundred
Yeah,
percent, 100%.
100.
Yeah.
But I was more or less surprised they didn't trade him or Terrence. I thought a catcher was gonna go.
Yeah, I'm happy they didn't trade Terrence because we talk about
And
how
Lou Bob, I thought was gonna go as well, but I'm assuming they did not want to pay down the rest of this year's salary. So
yeah, dude, and I'm seeing some ridiculous stuff. I don't know about you, but I'm seeing some ridiculous stuff about like, all right, you want to keep Lou Bob through the end of the year, fine, right? Especially we were gonna have to pay down his salary for like a 26th, 27th overall prospect. Like, all right, hold on to him. But he's got a club option for next year. Unless he goes on an absolute tear, we're going to decline that. But I don't know if you've seen this, but there are some like reporters who are very
trying to
knowledgeable
give him the
in
qualifying offer.
what the hell is that?
Yeah, no, that's so stupid.
They're like, oh, it's only like a $3 or $4 million difference than his salary would be next year. I don't care.
No, I'm not giving him any qualifying offer.
He has looked like
He'll accept
crap and
it.
he's made of glass.
Yeah, he will accept it. No.
Yeah. Yeah. But I agree with you. I think that for me, the idea of trading Luis Robert Jr. was more so of I just kind of want to dismantle everything from from 2026 Mets.
Mhm.
And also I wanted, like Morabito will probably get the call up, either him or Christopher Morel, who has been incredible, but Morabito would have gotten an opportunity to almost play every day if Robert was out. But I think that on the flip side, I would have maybe dangled Brett Beatty because we heard a couple weeks ago that there were a few contenders that were very interested in him, his upside, his versatility. I wouldn't have minded that. And then also, I know he's hurt, but I really don't care. I'm pissed that Mark Vientos is still a Met. I really am.
Yeah. Wow.
I think I really do think that he's like my least favorite Met in at least a decade.
Yeah. I don't really want to waste time talking about him. He sucks.
Yeah, no, I know. I know. Did you see the video of him doing his workouts
Man,
today?
such a fool.
Yeah, dude, he's trying to get that hand to work so that he can challenge.
Yeah, right.
He's a bum. All right.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, listen, from here, the Mets obviously there's as you said before, there's going to be a ton of transactions, whether it be late tonight or tomorrow. Robert Stock is in the rotation. Will it be him in the rotation moving forward? He looked good the other day, but will it be Robert Stock in the rotation? Will they move Kodai Senga back into the rotation, who made a start the other day? To me, I think I would put Stock in the bullpen and I would bring up Jonah Tong and let him work out his kinks at the major league level. But again, then you also have Nick Morabito that'll probably be up, and then some of the relievers. But there's going to be a flurry of moves, offensively speaking. We're still going to see the same lineup trotted out most likely. But again, there's going to be a different feeling because when the bullpen is your best cog, as we saw today, that's basically where we traded from,
Yeah.
and you don't have much left, then, right now we're looking at a bullpen of Jeffrey Yan, Devin Williams, Daniel Duarte, Bryce Conley, and Kodai Senga. So there's work to be done there. We still have to make it through 162.
Yeah.
And with that, there is still 2 months of baseball left, and the Mets begin a 9-game road trip tomorrow night. It may be a 10-game road trip. It kind of cuts off. I'm here on Fangraphs, but we'll come to you after the second series of the road trip. The Mets head to Cleveland and begin a 3-game stint tomorrow night. It'll be Sean Manaea taking on Joey Cantillo. On Wednesday, it'll be Nolan McLean taking on Slade Ciccone. And then on Thursday, it'll be Christian Scott taking on Tanner Bibee, however you say his last name. I have him on my fantasy team. I just can't pronounce it, nor do I care. And then the Mets will head to Pittsburgh, and we'll probably see Luke Weaver. It'll be Zach Thornton on Friday night. He'll be opposed by Cameron Modinsky, who shut the Mets down earlier this year. On Saturday, it'll either be, again, Kodai Senga, Robert Stock, or Jonah Tong, and they'll be opposed by Bubba Chandler. And then on Sunday, the series finale, it'll be Sean Manaea again taking on Jared Jones.
Yep.
And with that, Matt, trade deadline all over with. We don't have to talk about it anymore. Now it's about developing the pieces, moving forward in the
Exactly.
season, and making it through the 162. With that,
Exactly, brother.
you got anything else for us, my man?
Nah, man. Hopefully, the only thing we can do is root for these prospects
Yep.
and their development. So let's go, Mets.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This episode's in the books, the trade deadline edition. Remember to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We are at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And last but not least, download the SeatGeek app, punch and code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. And for Matt DeSantis, I'm Ian Bosniak. Thank you very much. And we will see you in a couple days. Good night, everybody.